Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 2007 action horror film 30 Days of Night, based on the graphic novel of the same name. And this film is set in the town of Barrow, Alaska, which is preparing for the depths of winter, a time when polar night plunges the settlement into a month-long period in which the sun never rises. As the town readies itself for this, a stranger arrives from a large ship and sabotages the town's communication and transports. Barrow's sheriff, Eben Olsen, investigates, learning in the process that his estranged wife Stella missed the last plane out of town and is now stuck until the next one, which won't arrive until after the polar night is over. Evan is about to have much more to worry about than his failed relationship, however. A band of vampires, led by the vicious Marlowe, has chosen Barrow as the perfect hunting ground, an entire month where they can roam freely, safe from the sun, slaughtering and feeding upon every human they find. Eben and Stella are among the few who survive the initial onslaught, but with an entire 30 days to wait until the sun will be seen again, do they really have any chance of coming out of this alive? So there is genuinely no sunrise in Barrow, or Utqiagvik as it is now known, from mid-November until late January, resulting in a polar night that actually lasts for over 66 days. Despite what the film would have you believe, however, that's not quite the same thing as saying there's no light. There's actually between 3 and 6 hours of what they call civil twilight every day, periods in which the sun is below the horizon, but there's still enough light for most outdoor activities due to light scattering by the upper atmosphere and from refraction. Now, I can see why the filmmakers chose to embellish the truth somewhat and instead go for 30 days of total uninterrupted darkness. Couple this with the highly isolated location. The only way in and out of town is by air, and not even that in the depths of winter. And you've got a great scenario in which to tell a vampire story. But of course, a great starting point doesn't necessarily make for a good movie, so I'm pleased to say that 30 Days a Night largely lives up to the promise of its premise. This is a good horror film. Really, in terms of whether you should see it or not, that's all you need to know. Either you have an interest in the horror genre, then you should probably check it out. Or you don't, and you shouldn't. It doesn't matter how good it is if you don't like horror. But, maybe you're somewhere in the middle and you want some more detailed analysis of the film's pros and cons. In which case, let's get stuck in. And I'm going to start with what, for me, was the biggest disappointment, which is the casting. It's not that the cast aren't good. Leads Josh Hartnett and Melissa George are talented actors who do solid work here, and the supporting cast don't let them down either. The problem is the ethnic makeup of the cast. I've been to Utqiagvik, or Barrow, as it is called in the film, and was named when I visited. And I don't need to look up the city's demographics to know that the cast represented here are in no way an accurate depiction of the real place. But I did look up those demographics just to be sure. Over half of Utqiagvik's population is of native descent, and only about 1 in 8 people are the white Northern European types who have overwhelmingly been cast for the movie. The casting here is a little bit like setting a movie in Delhi and then not having anyone of South Asian descent in the film. And, perhaps you're saying, who cares if they got the race mix right? They should just cast the best actors, in which case I'd suggest that you need to do a little more reading on systemic and structural racism, and also that you're almost certainly white and male. But moving on. Setting those casting issues aside, the film does have some niggling plot issues. How did the vampires get to Barrow? And how do they plan to leave? As I said, there are no roads leading out of town. In fact, the film explicitly mentions. Are they planning to walk across the tundra? That's hundreds of miles of permafrost territory where there is no cover at all from the sun. For that matter, why do the vampires hang around for the full 30 days when they pretty much wipe out the town in less than 24 hours? It would seem that almost all of their fun and feeding is over after the first day or two, and whatever escape route they have planned would be better put into action earlier rather than later, what with every day that ticks by being 1 day closer to the sun returning. The film also has some plot niggles of the more immediate kind. Why do the vampires sometimes move with lightning speed and not at other times? All of those things could be explained, of course, by an investigative, inventive viewer, but it'll have to be by the viewer because the film's not going to do it. But ultimately, those possible plot holes are mostly quibbles, and they certainly didn't detract from the moment-to-moment experience of the film for me. This is a solid movie. It introduces the central characters effectively, setting up who they are and giving us some real reason to care about the upcoming carnage. Then once the vamps arrive, it shifts into a standard but effectively presented survival horror film. Outmatched humans trying to stay alive against an enemy for which they're simply not prepared. The film, I think, executes this section much better than many other movies. It never has the main characters do irrational or counterproductive things for no apparent reason. People do irrational and counterproductive things, don't get me wrong, but they're easily understandable bad decisions given the circumstances. I'm never left going, why did he do that? He seems to have done that only to progress the film. I'm like, okay, I get why he did that. It was a bad idea, but it's understandable. 30 Days of Night also offers some nice subversion of a couple of the more common tropes of the genre, and I'm a sucker for a well-executed subverted trope. I was also pleased with the absence of fake-outs and jump scares. This is a movie that keeps the menace looming rather than going for too many cheap gotcha moments. I'm not sold on all the details of the film's last 10 minutes, but thematically it works pretty well, so I can live with it. With a solid, if much too white bread cast, and a strong though not flawless script, this is, as I said several minutes ago, a good horror film. And if you're a fan of the genre, I suggest you check it out. Next time, blaxploitation kung fu in the form of the 1974 offering TNT Jackson. Oddly enough, also a movie in which the presence or absence of light plays a significant role in one scene. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you've seen today's movie, let me know what you thought of it.